Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to a new chess strategy and tactics video. So in this video we'll talk about the endgame stage again. Today I wanted to show a very important endgame that I think everyone should know. Today we'll discuss the two bishops versus rook and pawn chess endgame in which white should actually win the game though. So this setup, for instance, that you see on the board is winning for white if white plays now the game correctly. And I found this beautiful endgame study here on the official TCEC website from the TCEC season 26, where the engines as a bonus competition had to play some cool endgame studies. In this particular case we have now the latest version of Stockfish, the powerful Stockfish 16 against another top engine Obsidian, in which Stockfish with the white pieces had to win the game and Obsidian with the black pieces had to now defend this position. So the position that you see is also table-based endgame, so it should be winning. So it's this setup is actually winning for white, but as I said, in a human level it's very tough to find the best idea, to find the best continuations. So that's why I think this is a very important endgame study. So let's dive now into this position. White is on the move. White has to now win the game. Of course white's bishop is attacked, so we have to move the bishop somewhere. But before we start to analyze really the position deeper, we should consider two drawish options here for black. Black can make a draw if, for instance, black somehow maybe gives up the rook for maybe a bishop and a pawn. With black sacrifices somehow, I don't know, the rook for a bishop and a pawn, then of course white is left only with the bishop on the board, and then of course white cannot win the game. Also, what's very important here to say is a different kind of a drawish approach where black could maybe give up this rook for this light square bishop. If that happens, if this trade happens, this rook for the light square bishop, then we would have the so-called wrong bishop position where white could not promote the pawn here with the support of the dark square bishop. Black will simply corner the king somewhere here on the light square, and then it's of course a thematic draw. So these are, I think, the most important ideas that white is trying to avoid. Never allow this rook to be traded for one of maybe the light square bishop and the pawn, or maybe even to trade off somehow the rook for this light square bishop. If that happens, as we said, it's a thematic draw. So white on the move. Here's the Stockfish engine. As I said, first of all, played now the move bishop to h5. Very important move because the bishop is of course attacked, and we're trying also to protect now our pawn here on a6. In the continuation, here Obsidian tried to attack the pawn, but of course Stockfish defended it, and now rook to a2. Very important move, I would say, also for black, cutting off white's ability to play with the king, and also of course with the bishop, because then maybe this bishop would be hanging on h2. Watch it now white do. Here Stockfish continued with bishop to e5. Very tricky move, because if, for instance, king to e6 happened, then of course there is a possibility of bishop to c4 and simply take out the rook. So it would be then of course a losing game for black. So black has to always also take care of potential double attacks by the bishop against the king and also against the rook. So that's why after bishop to e5, Obsidian tried king to d7, and now Stockfish finally gets out with the light square bishop, and is of course trying somehow slowly but surely to include the king into the attack. So watch it again. Black do, for instance, if you try king rook to g2, if you try to keep white's king out of the game, it's actually not working, because white will simply push the pawn, and now you don't have access anymore to the a2 square. This pawn is going to be promoted. Game over, of course, for black. So that's why after move bishop to c4, black is now forced to stay behind the pawn. And as I said, black is trying now this approach to get the king closer and give up simply the rook for maybe this bishop and this pawn, so to trade it off somehow, and keep white simply only with the dark square bishop on the board. Then of course it's a thematic draw. So white has to be careful here. So that's why bishop to c3 here by Stockfish. Again, what should black do? For instance, if black tries here rook to c5, seems tempting, but actually it's not working because of a7. We have near now the potential promotion. You can maybe grab now this one, but the pawn will be promoted again. Game over here for black. Then after a couple more moves we can pick up this one, and in a potential queen versus rook chess endgame, of course, again, this is completely winning for white. So that's why for bishop to c3, again, Obsidian tries to stay with this rook on the a file. It's not allowing this pawn to be pushed further. So now Stockfish plays, I think, here very interesting move. King to c2, very important move, because you could maybe try here rook to c3, but as I said, this is not this wrong bishop position. It's not this position where white is kept with the dark square bishop on the board, so black cannot give up the rook for the dark square bishop. Black could maybe give up the rook for the light square bishop, as we mentioned in the beginning of the video, then it would be the so-called wrong bishop position, and again completely drawish position then for both sides. So that's why for king to c2, king to c6 played by Obsidian, of course getting the king closer to the action. Bishop to b4 here by Stockfish, attacking now the rook, and now Obsidian plays this idea that we have talked about, rook to d3. Actually, white cannot take, of course. If bishop to d3 happens, then we have this one, e takes d3, king to d3, and now of course also the king is coming closer. But even if maybe the king would be somewhere here, it's not of course waiting for white, because we would then again have this wrong bishop position. So again, completely draw position for both sides. So here after king to b6, it's of course a draw. So that's why after rook to d3, very interesting move by Obsidian, very tricky idea to somehow force a draw. Stockfish continues now with the bishop to c3. We have now king to b6, and now finally Stockfish gets the king closer to the action. King to a7. Stockfish is of course marching with the king. Obsidian is trying to corner the king somehow, but now Stockfish gets out, and in some lines is trying maybe to somehow even deliver some checks with both of these bishops, getting of course the king closer, and if possible even somehow to maybe deliver a checkmate with the pawn, with the king, maybe with both of these bishops. So black has to also now take care of some checkmate patterns that would be possible with this beautiful bishop's activity of white. So that's why after bishop to e5, rook to d1 played by Obsidian, Stockfish again gets the king closer, and now e3, very important move, of course trying also somehow deflect both of these bishops from the attack against black's king. But now Stockfish plays an interesting sort of a Zugzwang move, plays a calm move, forces now black to do something, forces now a reaction by black. Let's see now options. You could maybe try here rook to d6 to attack the bishop, but then bishop to b2 would happen. You could maybe try rook to d2, maybe then we can attack. You're trying to go behind, but look at this, now we deliver some checks. Now again a new check. You can maybe try this one, new check, you have to step back, and now the pawn is rolling with the support of both of these bishops. Again, game over. Instead of rook to d2, you can maybe try rook to d1. Also maybe somehow, I don't know, to go behind this pawn, support it further, but again it's not working. Again with the same pattern, we'll simply attack it. You're trying to defend it, then again we play a calm move like a bishop to d3. You're trying to escape, but now the king is getting closer, and you see now you don't have access to the b1 square with the rook. You could maybe try to do something, but obviously check is going to happen, then also the promotion. Game over here for black. What you could do, instead of rook to d6, you could maybe try here rook to e1 immediately, I don't know, to support the potential progress of the pawn. But again, it's not working because of this check, and the pawn is rolling. Again, game over for black. So very important here to notice that even rook to d6 and rook to e1 are not working here for black. So let's go back. So after move bishop to f6 that Stockfish played, as we mentioned, a calm move, sort of a Zugzwang move, forcing now black to react. Here Obsidian played now king to b8, and now Stockfish plays again a calm move, forces again a new reaction by black. And now after king to a8, bishop to e5, now we have bishop to f4, attacking simply now this pawn on e3. If you, for instance, defend it, then again this rook is deflected from the d file, which is very important. Now there are a couple of ideas here. Bishop to b3, bishop to d3, not allowing here the rook to come to b1. Then of course the king can play much more freely. You're trying maybe to deliver check, but now we go here. You see no checks are possible. If you take, of course, then we'll simply play bishop to e3. And then you have to step back, for instance, here from the defense of the rook. You take, we take, then of course something like this, and in one moment you lose the rook. Game over again here for black. So after king to b5, you could maybe try e2 to push the pawn, but again with these problems. Bishop to e3, bishop to e2, you lose the piece. You're trying maybe somehow to get one of those bishops because they're lined up on the e file, but then a7, good move here, and then simple check, and we have a promotion again. Game over here for black. So after bishop to f4, the c protecting, after bishop to f4 here, protecting the pawn on e1. is not also working here for black. So that's why rook to a1, first of all, played by Obsidian. Now we have this idea, king to b5, rook to b1, trying to deliver some checks. Now we have e2, and now Stockfish simply plays bishop to e3 and gets now a powerful attack, also with the potential further promotion of the pawn. Here, instead of this move e2, what you could play is maybe rook to c1, trying to somehow get this bishop, but then bishop to e3 comes, of course, with a check. Even if you try, I don't know, rook to e1, then first of all, bishop to d3, getting out, and then, of course, taking out here the pawn again and again. I think this is game over here for black. So that's why for king to c6, e2 was played by Obsidian, but now Stockfish delivers a check. Obsidian has to now step back with the king. Stockfish takes. Now we have this idea, but again, first of all, this intermediate check. Now the king has to go here, and now Stockfish gets out of this mess. Has now two bishops and a pawn against the rook. So this is now completely winning here for white. So let's see now how Stockfish made progress here. Rook to e6, first of all, by Obsidian. Stockfish covers. As we mentioned, you would love maybe to give up the rook for one of those bishops and get this wrong bishop position. But of course, in this particular case, it's not so, because this bishop is actually supporting this square a8, and now it's not working anymore. So that's why rook to h6. Stockfish gets very active with the king, because the king is getting closer to the action. No checks are possible here. On the square h7, we have rook to h5, bishop to g3, rook gets here, Stockfish gets, of course, the king against the rook, simple threat against this main piece that, of course, black has here. Rook to a5, and now bishop to f2. Obsidian has to now step back, and now again bishop to c5. Rook to a1, Stockfish finally gets the king closer. Now also the a7 square is taken for the king, so this king is really cornered here. So no support by the king here for black. We have rook to d1, trying to attack the piece, but Stockfish simply gets out. Again, rook to e1, and now Stockfish gets the king here. There are a couple of checks that are possible, but white can always cover and include, of course, this other bishop into the game. Rook to e5. Obsidian is trying to somehow paralyze the bishop on c5 here. Bishop to f7. We have now king to a8, and now bishop to c4. Stockfish regroups, gets, of course, first of all, the bishops on a better square. Rook to f5. We have bishop to d3 in attack. New check. Black has to step back, and now good move here by the fish. King to c4. Again, sort of a waiting move, calm move, because if, for instance, black moves somehow from this 7th rank, then of course a7, a8 is the huge threat here by white. So that's why rook to d7. Obsidian stays, of course, on the 7th rank. Stockfish gets the king here. Rook to c7, king to d4. Now Stockfish attacks, and now pin simply here the piece. This is now completely lost here position for black. We have king to a7, Stockfish takes, and now with both of these bishops, of course, it's completely winning. Stockfish gets the king closer, simply forces now a new move, gets, of course, this king here, delivers a check, and now after bishop to e4, we have this common checkmate pattern with two bishops and a king against only this lonely king on a8. So incredible endgame. As I said, must know sort of pattern that I think could happen to you. Two bishops and a king should be winning against the king, rook, and pawn. Of course, there are maybe some other positions in which this is not possible, but in a common, I don't know, common setup, you see that white should be dominating with both of these bishops. There are very important patterns, as I mentioned. Take care of possible drawish opportunities for your opponent, because the wrong bishop position is one of the most common ideas that your opponent could provoke, or maybe giving up the rook for a bishop and a pawn, then you're left only with the bishop. So I think this is very important and thematic endgame here introduced to us by these two powerful chess engines. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the studies. I really enjoyed a lot, interesting ideas of this common endgames that could happen to you. If you want to see more about chess endgames, opening principles, middle game strategies, check out our chess endgames playlist, but also our basics in chess series videos, in which I've created also a separate playlist with these common strategies that could happen in any stage of the game. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.